Hi, this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happened throughout this week in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life, with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and world. I'm Dorian Sagulov, and this is what you'll see today. Asian Renaissance. The President of Kazakhstan as an honorary guest of the Boao Forum for Asia. What initiatives did Kassym-Jomart Tokayev suggest? A scientist who revolutionized the fight against poverty. What advice did Abhijit Banerjee give to the government of Kazakhstan? An exclusive interview with a Nobel Prize laureate in economics. Hidden talent. A rural school teacher from Kazakhstan produces beats for hits of the British singer Dua Lipa. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev voiced new initiatives in addressing global challenges at the main economic forum of the entire Asian world. This week, the President of Kazakhstan arrived in China to participate in the 23rd session of the Boao Forum for Asia. In his speech, the head of state focused on the issues of multilateral trade, food crisis and accessible finance. He emphasized that Asia is already leading the way towards a new era of sustainable development. For more important initiatives and no less important meetings in China, please watch our next report. The blossoming city of Boao on Hainan Island has gathered tens of thousands of politicians, businessmen and experts these days. The Boao Forum for Asia is a place for discussing key challenges facing Asian countries and the world as a whole. This year, the President of Kazakhstan became an honorary guest of the Economic Forum. Not for nothing did Ban Ki-moon, the chairman of BFA, personally greet Tokayev on the steps of the International Conference Center. Addressing the session participants, the head of state emphasized the important role of this platform as a center for dialogue against the backdrop of unprecedented global uncertainty and economic upheaval, noting that the outlook is not very promising.
As we approach the midpoint of a decade devoted to transformative development, the sober reality is that the global economy is expected to record the slowest half-decade of GDP growth in 30 years. Simultaneously, one of the major challenges facing the world economy is the ongoing trade tensions between major economies.
As emphasized by the President, the world needs a new multilateral trading system based on principles of fairness and openness. Tokayev stated that measures to improve fiscal and monetary systems, expand financial flows, will contribute to the formation of the competitive economy, making it more transparent and reliable.
Today, trade barriers, protectionism, and treaty withdrawals are gaining momentum, posing significant challenges to the global economy. Addressing these challenges requires elimination of unfair trade barriers, as well as making supply chains more transparent through digitalization.
The head of state also addressed the equally important climate agenda. The number of hungry people in the world is rapidly increasing, and in solving this problem, Kazakhstan can play a vital role. The president called on the global community to harness Kazakhstan's potential as one of the leading grain producers in Central Asia.
We must collectively enhance international cooperation by establishing targeted programs, collaborative agro-innovation hubs, and transfer of innovative technologies. Thus, the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, or the Middle Corridor, is the most viable path to secure supply chains between Asia and Europe.
Today, around 80% of all transportation between China and Europe is conducted through Kazakhstan. As noted by the head of state, in this regard, Asia is leading the way towards a new era of sustainable development. It is expected that this year Asia will account for 60% of global GDP growth, thus placing more than half of the world's trade in the hands of the Asian world.
Of the anticipated $30 trillion in middle-class consumption growth by 2030, only $1 trillion is expected to come from today's Western economies. Together, these factors point to a so-called Asian Renaissance.
To continue the discussion on all these important topics, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev called for further dialogue on the sidelines of the Astana International Forum in June. It's worth noting that AIF and the Boao Forum for Asia have already signed a memorandum of cooperation. It's known that one of the main speakers at AIF will be the chairman of BFA. This was agreed upon by Tokayev and Ban Ki-moon during their personal meeting. The president also discussed the implementation of bilateral projects between Kazakhstan and China with Zhao Leiji, the chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress of China.
Overall, our friendship and cooperation with China are an unquestionable priority for us. We are aligning all government agencies to work closely with their counterparts in the People's Republic of China to develop relations of comprehensive strategic partnership.
During his working visit to China, President of Kazakhstan also held a series of meetings with representatives of Chinese business. For instance, during a meeting with the head of one of the world's largest machinery manufacturing companies, Zhang Wenbo, cooperation in the field of green energy was discussed. The corporation is already involved in implementing a project to build a 1 gigawatt wind power station in Kazakhstan. Daurian Isagulov, New Time. So, this week global attention turned to an island in the southern China, Hainan, as it hosted the Boao Forum for Asia 2024. Traditionally, once in a year since 2001, this gathering brings together world leaders, corporate giants and industry experts to discuss pressing global issues. This year focuses on promoting economic integration in Asia. For the agenda of the so-called Asian Davos and its results, please watch New Times review right now.
With the theme Asia and the World, Common Challenges, Shared Responsibilities, the event delved into 5 main topics: world economy, scientific and technological innovation, social development, international cooperation, and jointly meeting challenges. Known as Asian Davos, Boao Forum for Asia was initially established to foster integration in the Asia-Pacific region. Over the years, it has evolved into a globally influential forum, akin to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Founded in 2001 with 30 member states, the BFA attracted over 5,000 participants from 60 countries and regions, along with more than 1,100 journalists from 40 countries and regions this year. Returning participant Danila Turk, former president of Slovenia, views the forum as an invaluable platform to discuss the evolving economy and new developments.
Last year I was at Boao for the first time, and this is my second time, and of course Boao is getting more and more interesting. But then the question is, how is the economy going to change? What are the new things? And here the details will have to be discussed, and this is an excellent opportunity.
Traditionally, the first day features reports on Asia's development and its partnerships. The initial briefing highlighted economic prospects and integration progress in Asia. The authors of the document state that Asia remains the leading driver of economic growth in the world, and China will continue to make a major contribution to this process, as its huge market brings great benefits to the whole world. Additionally, a report discussed transitioning towards zero-carbon electricity and promoting green development in Asia, acknowledging significant achievements, but also highlighting ongoing challenges, particularly in financing, which has surged in the region over the past year, experts noted.
We've seen that the number of members of the Asian Development Bank has increased significantly from 59 to 109 since September 2023. The bank approved 235 projects with a total financing value of $44.8 billion. The total capital involved in these projects is about $150 billion. So the financing event has obviously seen a change.
The forum's flagship report, the Asian Economic Outlook and Integration Progress, forecasts a 4.5% growth for the Asian economy in 2024, surpassing 2023, driven by strong consumption and proactive fiscal policies. Asia's economic aggregate is expected to present 49% of global GDP in 2024, up by 0.5 percentage points from 2023, making it the largest contributor to global growth. Despite a downward trend in trade and investment in 2023, Asia is anticipated to reverse this trend. The report highlights stable global dependence on Asian trade in goods and high trade dependence among Asian economies in 2022. Most Asian economies are expected to experience further easing of inflation pressure in 2024, with those currently experiencing lower inflation projected to see an increase.
We are relatively lagging behind in terms of intermediate goods. It is a very important area to increase our competitiveness. We cannot give up on intermediate goods because they connect the global industrial chain. Economic globalization is achieved by connecting intermediate goods with final products and end markets. This will promote the globalization of products with China as a connecting point. In this way, our ability to influence the global economy will be greatly enhanced.
As in previous years, the opening ceremony on the third day marked a significant moment with leaders and politicians from various countries, including the President of Kazakhstan, in attendance. Thus, with participation from leaders across different sectors and nations, including China and Kazakhstan, the event underscores the importance of international cooperation and dialogue in tackling shared challenges and advancing mutual interests. Balzhan Samigulina, New Time.
Speaking at the Boao Forum for Asia 2024, President Tokayev also emphasized that Kazakhstan constitutes half of China's trade and investment in the region. According to Kazakh leader, today Kazakh-Chinese relations represent a model of effective partnership, positioning Kazakhstan as China's primary trade and economic ally in Central Asia. Thus, last year, as Kazakh leader stated, the trade turnover between Kazakhstan and China reached a historical record of $41 billion. Moreover, in 2023, the volume of cargo transportation between the countries increased by 22%, amounting to almost 30 million tons. President Tokayev earlier held discussions with Erkin Tuniyaz, Deputy Secretary of the CPC Party Committee of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China, concerning the expansion of interregional and cross-border cooperation, emphasizing the fruitful collaboration across various sectors such as trade, industry, transportation, logistics, agriculture and tourism. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev highlighted the strategic importance of Xinjiang in bolstering Kazakhstan-China relations. In response, Erkin Tuniyaz expressed gratitude for the warm reception and acknowledged the successful implementation of joint initiatives as Belt and Road Initiative and Nurly-Zhol Economic Development Strategy. Notably positioned as the primary intersection between Kazakhstan and China, Xinjiang is considered to be the main crossroad of the Kazakhstan and China. It plays a strategic role in strengthening our multifaceted ties with the Middle East. This week, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev also met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cyprus, Konstantinos Kombos. During the meeting, the President confirmed Kazakhstan's desire to develop partnership relations with the Republic of Cyprus. As noted by the head of state, over 32 years of diplomatic relations, Astana and Nicosia managed to establish a strong political dialogue and investment cooperation. The President also supported the decision of the Cyprus government to open an embassy in Astana. This step will give a new impetus to the development of partnership, said the head of state. Both parties also shared opinions on mutual cooperation in trade, economic and investment spheres. It's worth noting that according to the data from the National Bank of Kazakhstan, from 2005 to 2023, Cypriot investments in the economy of Kazakhstan amounted to $4.1 billion. Organization of Turkic States is currently working on joint projects with other international organizations aimed to mobilize economic potential of member states, among which the significant importance comes to the Middle Corridor, said Deputy Secretary General of the OTS Mirey Mukojan in an exclusive interview to my colleague Balzhan Samigulina. According to Mr. Mukojan, the OTS remains ready for further development and cooperation in many other fields. What are the OTS future plans for its development? To find out, please watch the fragment of the interview right now.
Mr. Mukojan, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. Availing this opportunity, I would like to congratulate you with the Nowruz and the holy month of Ramadan.
Let me start from this point. At the last OTS summit, which was held in Astana, the head of the state proclaimed Astana as the financial center of the Organization of Turkic States for 2024. So, what plans in order to develop the trade potential between the member of the states for this year and for coming years, please?
Currently, our Secretariat is working on establishing potential institutional cooperation with the leading international organizations functioning in the field of economy, trade and investment, particularly with WTO, OECD, UNIDO, UNEC, and others. Under the umbrella of the Organization of Turkish States, 6 business council meetings and 5 business forum gatherings with the participation of more than 500 businessmen have been held so far. In November 2022, during the OTS Samarkand summit, the presidents of the Turkish states have signed a special decision on the establishment of the Turkish Investment Fund and appointed its president. The Turkish Investment Fund will be the first and main joint financial institution established by Turkish states and aims to mobilize the economic potential of member states of the OTS to strengthen the trade and economic cooperation between them and implement joint projects. Last but not least, one of the pivotal focal points of the OTS efforts is the Middle Corridor, a crucial transport road bridging Europe and Asia. The significance of this corridor has only been amplified by recent geopolitical events, as the need for diverse and reliable transportation networks become increasingly apparent. Our organization recognizes the Middle Corridor's potential to facilitate trade, economic growth, and enhance regional connectivity. Despite the challenges posed by recent geopolitical events, the Turkic world remains ready for further development and cooperation.
Thank you. Let us move to the next question. How do you assess the contribution of Kazakhstan to the development of the organization?
Since its independence, Kazakhstan gave importance to the Turkic world and the further development and dynamic strengthening of multilateral cooperation with the fraternal Turkic states. Over the years, Kazakhstan's involvement in the OTS has been proactive, that the promotion of political and economic integration within the projects such as Turkic Investment Fund, Turan Special Economic Zone, Coordination Committee of the Turkic Cooperation Organizations, Turkic World Vision 2040 strategy document, and other important initiatives have been implemented within the 15 years. In general, Kazakhstan had contributed a lot to the OTS. I believe that Kazakhstan chairmanship with the motto "Took time" will contribute even more.
Thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. You are more than welcome.
The year of Kazakh tourism kicked off in Beijing, coinciding with the Kazakh-Chinese Forum, where a 400-member Kazakh delegation convened. Multiple agreements were inked aiming to create 800,000 new jobs in the tourism sector and boost visitor arrivals to Kazakhstan to 4 million by 2029. Let me remind you that the year of tourism of Kazakhstan in China was announced last year during the official visit of Kassym-Jomart Tokayev to China. Despite this, about $3.3 million will be allocated this year to promote Kazakh tourism in China, according to Kazakh ministry.
Это очень серьезно повлияет на экономику.
In the past year, the influx of tourists from China to Kazakhstan surged by 15-fold, primarily attributed to the strong bilateral relations between our leaders. This significant uptick is poised to wield a considerable impact on the economy.
The Kazakh delegation attending the Forum on Tourism and Investment Development comprises cultural figures, musicians and entrepreneurs. Additionally, the program included a concert featuring popular Kazakh artists.
As we take to the stage of the theater and fine-tune the melodies, it's a profound responsibility to represent our culture within the esteemed halls of the Bolshoi Classical Theater, thereby showcasing the current cultural richness of Kazakhstan.
The Nobel Prize laureate in economics recommended to the government of Kazakhstan to assist poor people through direct income transfers. In an exclusive interview for New Time, Professor Abhijit Banerjee of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology stated that this method of combating poverty has repeatedly proven its effectiveness. In 2019, a trio of international scientists, Abhijit Banerjee, Esther Duflo and Michael Kremer, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics for their experimental approach to alleviating global poverty. These scientists were the first to understand that global and national strategies to combat poverty are too detached from reality. They proposed a revolutionary method of field experiments. In other words, government programs are first evaluated on a small experimental group and then, if successful, scaled up to the entire country. Today, the proposed method for combating poverty is already being used by governments in more than 80 countries. In an exclusive interview, Professor Banerjee also talked about the myths that hinder countries from effectively fighting poverty. Watch a fragment of the interview with the Nobel laureate in economics right now. Professor Banerjee, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. My first question is, what are some common misconceptions or myths about poverty? And how do these misconceptions impact governmental policies addressing the poverty?
So I think one of the myths that I think is probably very influential is this idea that poor people cannot necessarily be trusted with getting help. Because if you help them, they're going to become lazy, they'll get used to it, they're going to start using the money for whatever, doing things that are not good for their families, drinking or something. So there's a very, that particular theory is very influential and has been influential forever. It's not just now, it's been forever. People have this suspicion of the poor. And it comes out of this idea that why would they be poor if they were not somehow defective in some ways? And so I think from that, they have this idea that, in fact, if you give people easy access to help, they're going to become, they're going to actually react in ways that are not even in their own interests, maybe. And I think there's no evidence for that, and there's lots of evidence against that. I think there's strong evidence that if you give, in fact, if anything, poor people often are depressed and a bit hopeless because they don't have, possibilities in their life. And as a result, they often, when they get some, unexpected benefit, they actually react positively. They try to do something with that money. They try to start a business or invest in their children or try to improve their lives. There's no evidence that they, start, abusing the money, and no evidence whatsoever that they stop working. So that's important because, of course, that simplifies the business of how you help the poor. If you have to make them, jump through a number of hoops to earn the money, then you have to then have the whole, apparatus for doing that. If it's just a matter of giving them money, it's much easier. So in that sense, there is a small, there's a encouraging piece to this evidence, which is that, they can be trusted. They won't do awful things with the money. They won't stop working. They're just going to be happier and more productive.
Mm-hmm. Last year, the number of poor people in Kazakhstan reached a record high, surpassing 1.1 million individuals, while the total population of Kazakhstan is 20 million. That's according to the Bureau of National Statistics of Kazakhstan. As a scientist who understands the nature of the poverty, the question is simple, actually. What recommendations could you give to our government to reduce the number of poor people in Kazakhstan?
If I had to pick one thing, I would say that there is now reassuring evidence that, providing some income transfers to the poor works. It makes them richer without creating, I said at the beginning of this interview, that without creating any perverse effects. So if I had to suggest one thing, either an income transfer, an asset transfer, there's a whole literature on whether it should be income or assets, and there are arguments on both sides, and given time, I could say all those things. But I think this is relatively simple in the sense that it doesn't require, designing a whole infrastructure to for example, to improving schools or improving healthcare. These things are long-term infrastructural investments, and whereas making transfers is relatively straightforward.
Talking about the government initiatives and national strategies aimed at improving the well-being of the population, in your view, what should be the ideal collaboration between the government and the scientific community in order to, for example, to use the approach that you proposed?
I think that the ideal, and sometimes we get that, is when the government has a clear idea of what it wants to know and comes and says, can you help us with the evidence? What do you know already? What can you learn by doing extra experiments? So before a policy is made, if the government is willing to ask questions, and sometimes the government has compulsions to act fast, but we can still tell them that, look, this has been tried in 6 countries and has never worked, and that one has worked in some other countries. So I think we were sort of we both do experiments, but also we can summarize what has been learned from past experiments and past efforts. So we're a resource for government. So I think it's more when governments want to design policies, I think the ideal is when they make use of the resource, and sometimes that means doing new experiments, sometimes it means using the results from old experiments, but it's thinking of it as being one thing you will do before you go ahead with the policy.
That was only a fragment of our conversation. More details you can find in a full version of the interview on our YouTube channel silkway/Kazakhstan. A Center for Artificial Intelligence will appear at the Astana Hub International Technopark this year. According to the Kazakh Ministry of Digital Development, Innovation and Aerospace Industry, the center will become a leading platform for implementing advanced global practices in the field of artificial intelligence and neural networks. It aims to bring together representatives of government agencies, business communities, academics, digital innovation and other areas. Also, an expert council will be created at the center. There are plans to launch 100 startups annually and train 1,000 new specialists, as well as to achieve export revenue of $1 billion by 2026. A supercomputer will be developed to form computing power in the country. It will serve as a collection of service equipment for processing vast amount of data and performing large-scale computational operations.
On a single platform via smart government, we are gathering information that will be later provided to our consumers for the development of artificial intelligence products. To harness its computational power, we plan to launch a supercomputer in Kazakhstan in collaboration with a G42 company in the middle of a year.
And let us conclude with a bright collaboration. Yerkanat Yergazoğlu, a resident of Karaul village in the Abay region of Kazakhstan, wrote a track for renowned British singer Dua Lipa. The musician earlier announced this exciting news on his social media page. New Time team talked to Yerkanat and found out the details. Please watch their story right now.
Dua Lipa has officially revealed the upcoming launch of her latest album. Kazakh musician Yerkanat is credited with the music for the 7th track titled Illusions. The album, named Radical Optimism by the international singer, is set to debut on May 3rd. Yerkanat uploaded his remix on the freely accessible platform beatstars.com, catching the attention of Dua Lipa's team.
Dua Lipa's team purchased my music at the price I listed, which amounted to around $1,300. This is the highest price on the site. Contacting me through their official account, they informed me that they liked the beat and would include it in their album. It will be released on May 3rd and will be the 7th track. Of course, I agreed with great joy.
Erkanat is a biology teacher at a school to gifted children. He resides in the village with his family and has been teaching for just a year, intending to further his career in this field. According to his teacher, his journey into music began alongside his passion for dancing. As a student, he delved into contemporary Western culture, forming a hip-hop group with friends, competing in city events and crafting beats for their performances.
Erkanat is one of my students. In 2014, he graduated from the Abay Lyceum General Education School. Even as a student, he was part of the Jackman group, where they performed contemporary choreography. He is very kind, inquisitive and tactful. His sense of rhythm is outstanding, and he has a very keen appreciation for music.
Notably, in January, Erkanat remixed the song Mil Vezes by Brazilian singer Anitta. The remix gained official status and was published on her channel. Additionally, he has collaborated with various Kazakh artists.
On a global scale, in January, I also produced a remix for the Canadian-Filipino duo Manila Grey, who perform in the R&B genre. But who else would I like to work with? Certainly with the globally renowned Belgian singer Stromae from Belgium. His music delivery, arrangement and voice are extraordinary, and I'm a big fan of him.
Erkanat intends to persist in teaching biology to children in his hometown while simultaneously pursuing music and videography. Today he has crafted approximately 200 arrangements for 50 performers and shows no signs of slowing down. Baljan Samigulna, Daurian Isagulov, Dinara Yerbolkhaza, New Time.
That's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next week.